On today's video, I'm going to be watching Graham and Jack confront Dave Ramsey on good debt and his philosophy about this. They sat down with Dave Ramsey and did a phenomenal interview. I highly recommend you watch the full episode in its entirety. I'll have a link down below, as well as this 5-minute link that I'm going to react to. And they have this clip where they're talking about good debt versus bad debt. Dave Ramsey has some good points that he makes, and he also has some points that I disagree with, and so I'll give you my 2 cents throughout this. So without further ado, I'm going to be reacting to this, and I just want to congratulate, again, the Iced Coffee Hour for getting such an amazing guest with an amazing dialogue. We're all better for this interview.
Do you say debt is bad? Because for the average person, that is a good principle to live by. And with that, I kind of agree with you. However, if people do utilize debt in an effective way, such as Graham, he's very responsible, very well researched on the markets and how he can leverage his money with that. Do you think that that is a more effective way to grow fast if you're calculated with it?
It is.
I have to say, Jack, wonderful question, and how intimidating that would be to be sitting right across from Dave Ramsey, talking so articulately about that question. I think that's a question that I would want to ask, and many people in my situation and Graham's situation would ask it as well.
It's a more effective way to grow fast, if that's your goal. But what people leave out of the discussion is that you've increased your risk exponentially. More debt equals more risk, period.
More debt, more risk. 100% disagree, and I can break that down at the end of the video.
And so, after I went broke, I had to analyze and go, okay, what went wrong here? And because I had never lost money on a flip. I was not behind on the notes. They just called them. They had the ability to do that because it was commercial paper. It wasn't traditional mortgages. It was 90-day paper. And so what it amounted to was, so I had proven track record of making money. I mean, I probably owned 2,000 pieces of real estate in my life. And so I was doing a lot of flips. And some of them I was doing in 24 hours. I would just buy them and flip them to another investor and make 10 grand and keep rocking, that kind of stuff. So, but I was doing 100% financed. I had money, not a dime. I didn't have any money. So I talked to a guy into giving me a 100% deal on this house. I flipped it. I made 10 grand. And I talked him into doing it again. Then I talked him into doing it again. Then I talked him into doing $1.2 million and with that one bank. And yeah, so it set me up. And so after I crashed, I kind of had to go through a CSI, an autopsy. And go, okay, why did the patient die? And so because everything I was taught, I grew up in the real estate business. When you're in the real estate business as a profession, one of the rules is they take your risk meter out and they sit on the table and they break it.
Yeah.
So you have no ability.
I can relate to that
because everything's good, everything's going up, and it always works. And the mythology that just because something worked once, it's always going to work every time. So I had to go through kind of a healing of my heart in that regard and go, oh, wait a minute, this is risk. Oh, wait a minute, OPM, other people's money. Yeah, it's kind of got that get rich quick slimy vibe to it, and all that. But there are people that more intelligently than that, use debt. And so there's a spectrum there. But even those are taking on risk. And so when you have, Buffett says, when the tide goes out, you can tell who's skinny dipping. So when you stress test with an economic problem of some kind, outside variable or inside variable, inside your organization or your life, inside your portfolio, or the economy, like a quarantine type thing comes up, or inflation or recession, and you stress test your theories, you can tell who's skinny dipping when the tide goes out. And if your theories don't last. And so the only one I've ever found, and this comes back to my faith journeys where it started, the borrower slave to the lender, I can find nowhere in Scripture that debt was used to bless people. And so then I got to think, okay, do I believe that or do I believe my academic training? I've got a degree in finance, and I know how to run an IRR, and I know what the IRR looks like with debt and without debt. And it's not nearly as good unless you're leveraged. But you can run an IRR through the roof with leverage. Guess what's left out of the IRR calculation?
Risk.
There's no math inserted for risk. The IRR is agnostic to risk. It doesn't recognize it.
It's good. A really good point. I also have a thought on this.
And so while you see this great rate of return, there's zero risk showing up in there. The chance that you lose the thing, or the chance that the stress brings on your life, or what it does to your marriage, or what it does to your body to carry around the weight of that. None of that is parlayed into there. And real estate is unique in that way because other investment vehicles teach us to mathematically insert risk. For instance, 2 mutual funds, you would never compare an aggressive growth stock mutual fund with a growth in income. Okay, and if you look at the chart, the growth in income is kind of like this, and the aggressive growth is like this, right? And that's the risk factor. And the highs and lows on that, y'all probably know this is called, for our audience at home, the rapid change is measured by a thing called a beta. And a beta is a statistical measure of risk. It's a math number. And so a beta of 1.0, for those at home, means that particular mutual fund is exactly what the stock market is. It's S&P 500. It's doing what the stock market's doing. A beta of 2.0, it means it's twice as risky. So this is an aggressive growth, emerging market type stock fund portfolio. And so it's twice as risky as the market. So the way you would adjust for risk between a beta of a 0.8, which might be like a growth in income, versus a beta of 2.0, is you insert the beta in an inverse in the math formula, and you adjust for risk so you can compare these two apples to apples, even though after risk. A post-risk analysis. We don't do that in real estate. No one ever talks about that in real estate. It doesn't even come up. And so but we have kind of a brain, and our brain says, oh, wait a minute, if I'm 110% leverage in real estate, that's probably not good, A
couple things I want to say is, number one, I think you can't take everything so black and white. And so agree with Dave Ramsey? No, I don't agree with what he's saying. And I also think he makes some really good points. So let me talk about risk. He talks about the risk really being left out of the equation, and I 100% agree. This is a big problem with entrepreneurs. This is a big problem with real estate investors. This is a big problem with the people in the crypto market. It's like everything's amazing, but like we just are not trained to think about risk and what are the downsides. Keith Cunningham wrote an amazing book, an amazing couple books, but he has this quote that is so key in every decision that I go into. It's like, what's the upside? Okay, what's the upside? What's the downside? And can I live with the downside? And so risk is, this your chance of loss. And I 100% agree that every decision you make, you need to factor in risk, and you need to say, like, is this putting me more at risk or less at risk? And so if risk's definition is your chance of loss, using debt increases that. I 100% agree with Dave Ramsey. I 100% agree that debt, and I've said this multiple times, debt can be an enabler. Debt can get you into a deal that you shouldn't be in. Debt can create a greater rate of return on the upside, but can make you over leverage. I mean, he just said it himself. He was doing deals and had no skin in the game and was 100% leveraged, and then they called the notes. He was swimming naked, and as a result, when the tide went out, he was crushed. And I can see that experience to be like, okay, debt was the issue. But was debt the issue, or was it those aggressive decisions? Like, for instance, is risk involved in the debt, or is risk involved in the activity? I'm going to say that again because I think it's really, really key. And Dave Ramsey's looking at debt as the issue. I'm looking at the activity that you're doing with as the issue. Is debt the problem, or is your activity the problem? All that to say, let me know your thoughts. Let me know if I missed anything or if there's another point. I read every single comment that people make on the YouTube channel. And also, tag Graham and Jack. Great job, guys. And also, if there's any other questions or any other videos that you want me to react to, please let me know. We are committed to helping people think differently. We have a bunch of resources. We have an efficiency quiz. We have a vault. And we have just so many resources from betterwealth.com that we just want to help people think differently, live more intentionally, and be more in control over their money. And so without further ado, have a great rest of your day.